Hello friends, thank you for watching this video. I am Mohamad and today we will begin our weekend coding tips and tricks series where we will discover different features of C#, .NET, Entity Framework and so much more. We're gonna go through some examples and see how we can utilize them in our day-to-day coding. This is episode 1 of the series and today we will cover the ingredients that we're gonna be needing in order for us to build and go through those examples and tips and tricks. And today main topic is gonna be string interpolation and discards. Please provide feedback in the comments down below of any topics that you'd like me to cover. As always, you will find the source code in the description down below. Please like, share and subscribe if you like the video. It will really help the channel. So, what are the ingredients that we're going to be needing? We're going to need Visual Studio Code, which is going to be our code editor, and we're going to be utilizing .NET 5 SDK in order for us to build our sample code. You can find the links on the screen or in the description down below. The installation is pretty straightforward. Now let's start coding. The first thing that we're going to be doing after downloading and installing the .NET SDK is we want to verify that it has been installed successfully. So for us to do that, we're going to be utilizing the .NET -- version, and here we can see that I have version 5.0.300, which is the latest version by the time of recording of this video. If you see any other number, that should be fine. If you see an error, please re-download and reinstall the .NET SDK. Now let's create our project, and we're going to be utilizing a console application to go through the samples. So we're going to be utilizing the .NET new keyword, so .NET new console, and we're gonna be giving it a name of CTT, which is coding tips and tricks episode 1. And this will take a few seconds. And now that has been created successfully, now let's navigate to it and let's open it in our code editor. Great. Now that our application has opened, the first thing we're gonna be going to the view and opening terminal. And inside the terminal, we're going to actually run the application and to make sure that everything is running as it should be. And for that, we're going to be utilizing .NET run. And as you can see, we got the generic outcome, which is hello world. Now let's open our program.cs, and we can see that we have our console.writeLine hello world. Now let's change world to Mohamad. And now let's save it and let's go through it. Let's run it again. And now we can see it says hello Mohamad. Console.writeLine is a really powerful feature in C# and the most standard way for us to utilize to output text. And you can see here it's basically taking any string inside those parentheses and it's outputting them. What happened now if I want to change the name of the person? So instead of Mohamad, I want to say hello John or hello Mickey. So in order for us to do that, we have a couple of options to accomplish this. First of all, we can do it manually by updating the value of the strings that we want, but this is not a flexible way to doing and to accomplishing that result. So for example, if I want to say hello John, instead of Mohamad, I just replace Mohamad with John, save it and run it again. And we can see here, for example, now it says hello John. And if, for example, I want to change it to Mickey, I can do the same thing over again and save it and run it. As you can see as well, we get the outcome, but this is not the most flexible way that we can do in order for us to change the outcome of the project. The second way we can do it is by utilizing string formatting. So how we can do that? So let's create first a variable. So we create a variable, call it name, and this variable name we're gonna call it Mohamad, give it the value of Mohamad, and then we're gonna create the string output, which is gonna utilize the string format to build the string that we want, and that we can make it output string equal, and we're gonna be utilizing string.format, which is the most standard way as well to dynamically add values to a string. And from here we're gonna put hello, and then we can put the value that we want to output, and then we can give the variable name. And let's save this, and then we'll put console.writeLine and output string. So now in the console.write line, instead of putting the string manually, what we did is we created a variable. We have inputted this information inside that variable, and we made one of the inputs of it, which is here. We made it, which is a 0. We made it dynamic based on the name that we have. So now let's run this and see the outcome. And as you can see, we have hello Mohamad automatically populated, which is good, but now we can see how it's gonna get a bit more confusing when we want to add multiple values. So let's say I want to add another name. So instead of Mohamad, let's say var name2. I want to say this is, for example, we give it the name John, and I want to say hello Mohamad and John, for example, and here I can give it name2. Save. Now let's run this again, and now we can see we have hello Mohamad and John. And as you can see here, the strings and string formatting is getting a bit more complicated. The more we want to add more values, the more variables that I need to set up within my string, and the more string allocation that I need to do after that. And the more, for example, let's say I want to add another, for example, name var name3. And let's set it, for example, here instead of John, I can put Mickey, for example. And here, for example, what I can do something like this, and two, for example, and then put here name3. And let's save this and run it. Oh, forgot the semicolon. Now let's run it, and now we can see that the outcome is hello Mohamad, John, and Mickey, which is the output. This is the outcome that we want, but as you can see, the string formatting here is getting really complicated. So the outcome that we want to reach is to make the string output as easy as understandable as possible. So we want a way to replace the 0, 1, and 2 with the actual value that we want to add to the strings. So the way we can accomplish this is by utilizing string interpolation. So how can we do that? What we can do is, let us create a new output string, so a new variable, var output string, let's call it v2. And what we can do is, instead of having string format and assignment, what we can do is we can say hello name name1, name2, sorry, and name3. So this is the outcome that we want to reach. So instead of having placeholders like 0, 1, and 2 and then assigning them, I just want to directly doing there. But as you can see, if I want to output this right now, so let's take this, and this is gonna be v2. Let's say if I want to output this right now, we're gonna be getting basically name, name2, name3, which is not really dynamic. So how can we make these dynamic? It's very easy. All I need to do is put a $sign on the beginning of the string, and that automatically converts it into variable. So right now I added this $sign, and what it did is it automatically converted whatever inside these curly braces into the variables that we have. So instead of having them like static strings like that, the $sign made me directly access the variable with these. So right now if I run it, so let's save this and let's run it, we can see that we can get the actual output that we want without actually, let's add the explanation point. As you can see, we got the exact same output with way much more less coding and way more easier code structure for us to read and to understand. And that way we can exactly know which variable goes exactly where. So I know here, for example, the first name I want to say is name, and then the second one is name2, and the third one name3. So I can really easily understand the code and what it's trying to do. So basically the $sign tells the compiler that there is a string interpolation and it needs to get the value of the variable and insert them in the string. So basically we are embedding those variable into our string. We can utilize string interpolation any way we see fit in our code. As well, we can extend this by utilizing any inline method. So let's say we want to make the values, for example, of name 2 and 3 in uppercase. So instead of changing the value from outside the string interpolation, all I need to do is add the functionality directly into the string itself. So how I can do that? It's very simple. So let's say I want to make, as I said, name 2 and name 3 to uppercase. I can directly just add the inline functionality from here and add it as well from here. And now if I run the application, we can see that John and Mickey are all in uppercase. So you can see here that string interpolation as well gives me more functionality and gives me more power into the string management rather than just like outputting the values that I want. Now let's take this a step further and let's now say that we want to execute a more of a complex scenario. So for this, I'm just gonna create a record. So let's say create a record, and this record we're gonna call it a car, and basically this record is gonna have a string which is gonna be a brand, and string color, string engine. We're gonna have an integer which is gonna be the year, and lastly double, which is a price. And if you don't know what record is a C# 9 functionality that has been added. I have a different video which explains records in much more details, which I will link here on the upper right hand corner. So now we have created our record. Let us utilize it. So here I'm gonna create a new record. And now we're just gonna give the information. So we're gonna make a Jeep, for example. We're gonna give the color gray. We're gonna do the engine, for example, a V8. And let's give it the year 2015. And let's put the car price as, for example, 19,500.25 because it's a double. Okay, so now we have our record ready, and actually that's all we need to do right now. Now, what are we gonna be utilizing this record for? So let's say I want to create some type of complex output which is gonna be summarizing this record's information. So var car info, and all of this is gonna be in a string. So I want to display the brand, the color, and some way that I can summarize all of this car record in a single string, and I can output it back to the user. So what I can do is I can use string interpolation, and I can do something like this. So we can say for example, car, and I can get the car name. Just make this lowercase. And see here, I can directly utilize the object, and I can use the brand. And basically, I'm utilizing directly the instance of that object directly from the record. So basically, I'm utilizing the instance of that record directly in my string interpolation. And I can put the car. And then what I can do as well, I can use this of, for example, color. And again, I need to put the $sign to enable string interpolation. And here you can see the power of the flexibility that this gives me. Like I can even choose if I want this line to be string interpolated or not. So I put car dot color, and then again plus $sign. For example, I can put, for example, made in, let's say, car year. So car dot year plus dollar, and then for example is worth, let's say, and here for example I can put the car dot price plus, let's put the space, so plus, and lastly we'll put the date, so we can put $sign equal and on. And you can see here right now it doesn't have to be also a variable. What we can do is we can utilize C# default values that it gives us, so we can use datetime dot now, and actually we can actually format it directly from here. So that's the power of string interpolation. It will give us much more flexibility into our string output rather than just creating values, input those string into adding all of this condition into those values, and then injecting those values into our string. And lastly, if I want to just do console.writeLine car info, and now if I want to run this, just take a few seconds, and now as you see I have the car Jeep of color gray made in 2015 is worth this amount of money on 6/6/2021, which is great. This is exactly what I want. I want to be able to get the information from an object, which is the record object here, and actually I have populated the string as I wanted, utilizing string interpolation, and I added some formatting to my datetime directly into my string and directly output it. Perfect. To take this step a bit further, let us see how we can actually utilize logic inside the string itself. So let's say I want to add some kind of condition to see, for example, if this price is above 20,000, I want to say it's a high price. If it's, for example, lower than 20,000, I want to say this is a low price. And I'm gonna do this inside the string itself. So I'm gonna add logic in order for me to control the output of it. So how am I gonna do that? I'm gonna add a new line here. I'm gonna add string interpolation, and then basically I'm gonna say this is an, I'm gonna say if this is an expensive price, it's a high price or low price, and I'm gonna add the condition here. So how I'm gonna add the condition here? The first thing I need to do is I need to add the braces, and then from that point I will need to add two brackets, and when I add those brackets, it's basically telling the compiler that there's a condition that it needs to assess before it can output the value. So the condition basically here is going to be the car dot price. I'm going to say if it's less than 20,000, I'm going to say this is a low price, but if it is higher than 20,000 or equal, let's say higher or equal to 20,000, we can say this is going to be a high price. And then after the string interpolation, I can just add the word price here. Now let's run this and see if this condition will actually work. So .NET run, and now we can see that the car Jeep of color gray made in 2015 with the worth of 19,525 on 6/6/21. Let's add a space so it will look nicer. And we can see this is a low price because the condition is lower. Now let's see if I increase this price to, for example, 29,000. And now let's run this again. Now I should be able to see that this is a high price because it is more than the 20,000. Perfect, because this is more, now it became a high price. Now this is how we can see that this is a really powerful feature. And now we can see that there's a lot of use cases and a lot of functionality that I can actually add to this. Now, the last thing that we're gonna cover related to string interpolation is, let's say within my string, I wanna add a curly braces. And I also have values that I wanna add. How I can tell the compiler that I wanna ignore one of the curly braces? It's very easy. All I need to do is, let's utilize the car information again, and let's create a new line, and we'll put a plus sign, and here let's put the $sign, and inside of this, for example, I'm gonna add let's say this is a brace. So how can I do that? If I want to ignore it, I can only double brace, which basically ignores the basically it tells the compiler that it needs to ignore the string interpolation for this brace specifically. So this is one. But what happens if I want to add, for example, string interpolation on the same text? Very easy. I can put, for example, the brace again, and it will automatically work. So I can put, for example, datetime dot here dot now dot here, for example. And right now, if I run this, we should see one brace and we should see the year afterwards. So we can see that we see that the year here, and we can see the brace. Perfect. So basically this double brace tells the compiler to ignore the brace for string interpolation, but I can still utilize string interpolation in different values. Perfect. I hope this gave you a bit of an overview of string interpolation, and it opened your eye of how you can utilize them within your code. So the next point that we're gonna be discussing today is discard. And discards are very simple and a very nice concept to have. So they are basically temporary variable which are read-only. We cannot write to them. They are useful when we don't want to know what's the value inside this variable. So basically these are variables that we utilize inside our code, but we don't actually use. This is really helpful when we want to do memory saving allocation. So for example, if we don't want to initiate any variables that we know that we're not going to utilize, we can just use discard in order for us to save memory and enhance our code performance. This enhances the readability and the maintainability of the code. So now let us do a small example to see how we can utilize discard and what are they. So let us create here like a new section. We'll call it discard, and let's take it from here. So basically, let's create right now 3 values. So var, I will call it car brand, and let's call this car brand. I'll tell you what, without doing this, we can just utilize the record that we have for a car here, which is car. So let's create this var, and this is a tuple. We're gonna utilize a tuple here. Let's put a price and mileage and equal get car information, for example, and basically we're just going to put car dot brand and car dot here and car dot engine. Okay, so we don't have this method yet. We're just gonna create it. But just so you know, discard are these underscores here that we have. And these underscores are basically variables that we have, but we don't assign them to anything because we don't really care about what's the value inside of them. So now let's create this function and we can actually understand how it works all from there. So the function is basically we're going to return a string and double, and then we're going to return an int, an int, an int, and an int, and we're going to say get car information, and then basically this is going to take a brand, and it's going to take a year, if I can type, and then it's going to take finally a string as an engine. Great. So once we have that, basically we're going to return a very simple response. So we're gonna say if brand equal cheap, which is what we have. We're just gonna return, this is all for demo purposes, name, and we're just gonna update the value. So it's gonna be, for example, 35,000 for the mileage, and we're gonna for the price, and it's gonna be 130,000 for the mileage, and we're gonna put 0 and 5 and the random information basically. And if it's not, we're just gonna return an empty one. So let's copy this and it's gonna make this an empty string, and all of these values gonna be 0, 0, 0. So I have this function here which is going to return for me a tulip, which is going to have a lot of information, and basically from this information all I care about is the price and the mileage. I don't care about anything else. So if let's say I want to now display this information out, so here for example I want to create a console.writeLine. So I'm gonna use a string interpolation here, and this is here also we can utilize, see the power of string interpolation as well as tuple as well as discard. So all I need to do is I put a $sign, I'm gonna put the double quote, and then basically we're gonna say car info, and then we're gonna say model, and basically we can take it directly from the year, which is gonna be, let's say car dot brand, and then here we're gonna say the price. I'm gonna take the direct price that's coming out from the tuples, so price and mileage. So basically what happened here, I have this tuple which is an outcome of this variable. I don't really care about, for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, like these 4 variables. So here for example I can put any name that I want. For example I can put brand, for example, or I can put here let's say value or anything. But if I do this and I actually initialize these values here instead of having those discard, this is gonna be an added memory on my program itself, and this is gonna increase the performance of my code, because it's actually the compiler is gonna take these, it's gonna create variables in the memory for them, and it's gonna wait for them to be assigned, and then although I'm not gonna be utilizing this assigned value, it's gonna wait for the assigned value, and this memory block is only gonna be, it's also gonna be utilized, still gonna be utilized inside my code until this object goes out of memory and it's gonna be terminated. But as long as it's living inside my memory, this value is also gonna be still being utilized. And as you can see, it's gonna be a wasteful time and wasteful utilization of memory. So C# provided us with the discard solution in order for us to basically ignore the initialization, and this underscore here will tell the compiler, if you see this, do not initialize a memory, this is going to be wasted. So just know that there's going to be a value here, but we don't really care about it, so we're going to be ignoring it for now. And this is why when we put an underscore, this will help us utilize the discard, and it will help us saving memory and make it much more and add much more performance to our code. So that's one sample that I wanted to explain, and one last example related to discard, and we can see how it can help in other scenarios. Is, for example, let's say I have a string, so let's put a var and date check, for example, and let's say I want to check a date, and this date, let's put it, for example, 0 today is what, 06 2021, and let's say I want to put the time, which is gonna be 09 18, and let's say, for example, 33.8, and I want to check if this actually a valid time or not. So the way I can do that is I can use datetime dot try parse, and I can put the date check, and I can put the output, which is basically datetime result. And based on that, what I can do is I can put console.writeLine. So basically this will return a boolean, so var bool, we're gonna put var result, and what we're gonna say, result is a big word, so we'll say date result or check result better. So the hardest thing for a programmer is to find the right name for your variables. So, and now we're gonna just see if this check result is true. We're gonna say console.writeLine. We're gonna say this is a valid date. else this is an invalid date. Very easy. Console.writeLine invalid date. Great. So now you can see here that we're not really actually utilizing this result. All we're doing is we're actually just outputting if this is a valid date or not. And if actually this is a valid date, we're gonna just basically take the date check that we currently have. So we can use string interpolation again, and I can put date check, and here I can utilize string interpolation, and I'm not really utilizing this results here. And the way this works within the date parse, it will actually create a variable called result of type datetime in my memory, and it will actually input it with the value of date check once it's converted to datetime, but I'm not actually utilizing, so this is actually wasted in my memory. So the way I can optimize this is again utilizing discards, and by simply adding this underscore here, the underscore, oh, we need to add the out keyword for, I'm sorry. So once I added the underscore, now the compiler will know that no matter what the output of date check, doesn't really care about, it doesn't really save, and it saves me a lot of memory. So now let's run it without with the date time and see if it works or not. So we put result, and then we can actually add the discard and see. So now let's run the command .NET run, and we can see right now we have, it's a valid date. Now let's put the discard here instead of this, and now let's run it, and now we can see it's actually as well a valid date. Great. So this finalizes our session for today, the tips and tricks session. So just to do a quick summary, we have went through string interpolation and different way we can utilize them, and then we went through discards and we saw how we can use it to optimize our code and how we can actually add more performance to our code. Thank you very much for watching. Please add in the comments or write in the comments anything that you'd like me to cover in this tips and tricks series, and please like, share and subscribe if you like this video. Have a great day.